Ross Tucker, former NFL offensive lineman, the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, Westwood One NFL analyst, and he was on the call last night, Chiefs and the Bills. He's also got Giants-Eagles coming up Thursday night, and Ross, kind enough to get up early for this broadcast, this show, and entertain a nation. How were the conditions last night, Ross?
You know, Dan, they weren't that bad, but I didn't think we would see the shootout that we were hoping to see just because there was like a significant mist the whole time. And having played center and knowing how quarterbacks like to grip the ball, I thought that might have some impact. It certainly seemed to have some impact with Josh Allen throwing the ball. There were a few drops. I don't know that it was the biggest reason that there wasn't as many points as we thought. I think both teams playing a lot of two deep safety coverages and trying to keep everything in front of them was the biggest reason why it wasn't the shootout that we thought it could be. But certainly the weather was a factor. I mean, you know, Dan, I played 3 years in Buffalo. It reminded me of pretty much every day in Buffalo ever.
The Josh Allen MVP bandwagon, there's still some seats available here. What are you noticing right now with Josh Allen?
Well, I'm disappointed, and I'll tell you why I'm disappointed. You know, I have an affinity for Buffalo, played for 5 teams, but that was where I played the most and all that stuff. And I go on all these radio stations all around the country for radio.com, and they're always saying, are the Bills for real, Ross? Or is Josh Allen for real? I mean, that is, I get that every station I go on. And Dan, the first 4 weeks, I said, yep, they got a great roster. The Bills, because you know the way it is, they haven't won a playoff game since 95. So people are not going to believe both in the Bills in general and Josh Allen in particular until they show it. So for a whole month, I told everybody it's different. The Bills are for real. And then 2 standalone primetime games, which are like 10 times as important as a Sunday 1:00 game in the court of public opinion, because everybody's watching, everybody's on Twitter. They did not play well. Josh Allen did not play well. I thought he played okay against the Titans, other than the really bad pick to Malcolm Butler. Last night, he did not play well at all. And so everyone that was a doubter of the Bills and Josh Allen, these last 2 games, they got more than enough ammunition now, Dan, for the rest of the year to say, nope, that's the guy. See, I told you, Josh Allen's still the guy that can't win the big one and will make the bad turnover when you need him to make the play.
What stood out last night to me was we're used to the Chiefs being faster than everybody else. They bullied the Bills last night. When you're running the ball like that, having the capability to be able to load up Edwards-Helaire, and you don't have to rely necessarily on Mahomes' arm. How surprised were you with that game plan with Kansas City and that it was successful?
Well, they had to do and take what the Bills were giving them. I mean, the Bills, this is how I think teams are going to play the Chiefs, because the Bills sat with 2 deep safeties the whole game. And it's like pounding your head into a wall, Dan, to try to throw deep against that. It's just not smart. You have an extra blocker. They're not putting the extra guy in the box. So you have to run them out of it. You have to run the football. And to be honest with you, Dan, I think that the Bills were kind of okay with it. They'd rather give up 5 to 7 yards to Clyde Edwards-Helaire than 57 to Tyreek Hill. And at the end of the day, even though it might look bad and be demoralizing, they gave up 26 points, and the 26 points included a couple of unbelievable catches by Travis Kelce, some ridiculous 3rd down conversions by Patrick Mahomes. So net, even though the Chiefs controlled the clock, I don't think the Bills are that disappointed in only giving up 26 points, because it took miraculous Mahomes to even get that many. He, by the way, Dan, I don't know, we need this might be stat of the day. Maybe McLovin can get on this. I am convinced that Patrick Mahomes has by far the highest 3rd and long conversion rate in NFL history. I mean, they're all 3rd and 7 to 3rd and 14, and he still gets it. That's the position you want to put him in, and he still does it.
What is considered 3rd and long?
I'd say 3rd and 7 or more.
Okay.
Some people say 3rd and 6, but 3rd and 7 or more. I mean, it seems like it's darn near 75%, Dan. It's unbelievable how often he's able to get that done. Even a game where you don't think he plays that great, 22 of 26, couple touchdowns, no interceptions, a bunch of third down conversions with his arm, with his legs. I thought that was a really impressive game overall by the Chiefs, how they played defensively, how they ran the ball, because that might be what it's like in a playoff game in January in Pittsburgh or Baltimore. And the Chiefs kind of said, hey, you know what? We can win that way too.
Yeah, that was really impressive, and I think you're right. And I think, people look at Belichick with his game plan against the Chiefs, even though they couldn't carry it out because they didn't have Cam Newton that night. But if you're going to basically say, go ahead and run, we're not going to give you the deep ball, and we're going to test Patrick Mahomes' patience. And, maybe we get a couple of plays, maybe we control the clock on our end and keep him off the field. I think that's what teams are trying to do, whether they're able to be successful or not. We got a long season. I don't know if you got to see the Cowboys and the Cardinals, but I don't know if it can get much worse, but it's pretty ugly there in Dallas. And if you were looking to find a silver lining here, what would it be?
Oh, I don't know that there is one, other than the fact that unlike previous years, they've been so decimated by injury up front on the offensive line that I guess they at least have a plausible excuse. The combination of losing both tackles, the center, now Zach Martin last night, and Dak, it's almost like it gives them a reason for why they're not playing well, Dan. The truth is, though, they weren't playing well before that. The defense has taken a big step back. And I tweeted this last night at Ross Tucker NFL. This is why, Dan, I thought it was comical when everybody acted like this offseason like Mike McCarthy was the second coming of Vince Lombardi. I mean, I think he's a fine coach. I'm not being critical of McCarthy. I think he's fine. But people made it sound like all offseason that Mike McCarthy's the greatest coach ever, Jason Garrett's the worst coach ever, and just because of that one change, Garrett out, McCarthy in, the Cowboys are going to the Super Bowl. Obviously, that's not the case.
I hate giving a running back a second contract. I don't care who it is. And this isn't, hindsight here with Zeke Elliott. I said it at the time. There is no way I would have given him that contract. But Jerry Jones is so desperate to win another Super Bowl that he gave everybody money. And it was like trick or treat when you walked up to his door. Amari Cooper, here's $100. Hey, Zeke, here's $90 million. DeMarcus Lawrence, I want to get paid too. They got some bad investments there. And these are contracts you just can't unload.
Well, you certainly can't unload the Zeke contract. And the irony of that is that of all those guys, the guy that was most important to get locked up for the long term was Dak Prescott, the one guy that they weren't able to get locked up. I'm with you on the running back thing, but I think you look around the league, Alvin Kamara in New Orleans, Christian McCaffrey in Carolina. I think that sounds good, Dan. And I think from a strictly objective business standpoint, you're right. But when Alvin Kamara doesn't show up for practice a couple days, and this is Drew Brees' last year, and you're trying to win the Super Bowl, what are you going to do? When Christian McCaffrey, who's by far the face of the franchise, that he's not going to show up for training camp unless you give him a contract. I just think it puts these teams in tough spots from a on-field standpoint and the off the field. I mean, McCaffrey was the face of the Panthers. I think it's tough to hold those guys' feet to the fire. You're probably right. It's probably not the best business move.
Yeah, I know. Like Kamara, I get because of the importance to Drew Brees this year and the Saints this year, but he's the only running back. McCaffrey's replacement has matched his, the rushing numbers there. You just don't need these guys. They're all interchangeable, it feels like. But it's like Travis Etienne at Clemson. Is he going to be next year's Clyde Edwards-Helaire? Maybe at the end of the first round or second round you take him because he's probably just as dynamic as Edwards-Helaire.
Well, and to your point, when Mike Davis fills in for Christian McCaffrey that well, or Alexander Madison for Dalvin Cook and does a nice job. I mean, even last night, I thought Tony Pollard at times looked better for the Cowboys than Zeke Elliott. These guys are good players. They're deserving of the money, but the backups are usually so close and so comparable, and they're like third-round picks making the minimum. It's very, very hard to justify financially. But I also think it's very, very hard to say, hey, thank you for a great 3 years. We're going to let you play out this year and then let you go. Because then maybe they'll pull a Le'Veon Bell on you and say, hey, I don't want any more tread on the tires if you're not going to give me what I want.
I'm looking at the background there with your trophy case. You've got some footballs. Those are the helmets of all the teams you played for?
Yeah, it looks like the Washington throwback in 2002, like the Sonny Jurgensen Arrow helmet. Then
there's not a lot of scuff marks on those helmets, Ross.
There are or there's not?
There's not.
Dan, not you two. Not you two, Dan. I know about Paulie, but not you two. Actually, there's a lot of scuff marks because of practice and trying to make sure my butt stayed on the team. So, and then hey, those game balls, they don't just give those game balls out there. And you have to earn them.
I think they give them out to everybody, apparently. What are those game balls? Is there one that stands out there?
Yeah, so there's 4 Bills ones, which are all cool, but the one over this shoulder, my left shoulder, it's a Thanksgiving Day game, Dallas Cowboys. So I had started, Dan, I had been with the Redskins the whole year. Midway through the year, Spurrier cuts me. I get picked up on waivers by the Cowboys. 3 weeks later, I'm starting on Thanksgiving against the Redskins. Emmett rushes for 100. We win. And you know the deal with Thanksgiving. I mean, other than the Super Bowl, I think it's like the most watched game. So I'm 23 years old, start on Thanksgiving. We win. I fly home the next morning. We get the weekend off. I go to my 5th year high school reunion, Dan, that night. The day I walked in, every girl that didn't like me, I was like, hi, Stacy, how are you? Hi, Jennifer, how are you doing? Hey, how was your Thanksgiving? What did you do last night? Anything? You do anything? See anything on TV yesterday? How was it? It was awesome. It was like, Dan, if you said, Ross, what do you want for your 5th year reunion? I would have said, I don't know, maybe I start for the Cowboys the day before. That'd be cool.
Oh, have fun. Giants Eagles Thursday night. Boy, that'll be a good one.
Hey, whoever wins has as many wins as anybody in the NFC, unless it's a tie again, which is possible.
Ross Tucker Football Podcast. Oh, we love talking to you. Thank you, buddy.
All right, see you guys.
All right, Ross Tucker, former offensive lineman, and the Ross Tucker Podcast. He works for Westwood, their NFL analyst.